does not require a minyan.
Didn't know that.
It doesn't even require a study partner, although that's encouraged. I actually read something really interesting about the idea of two Jews, three opinions, a different interpretation. I'm reading Rabbi Angela Bookdahl's memoir. It is full of beautiful, compact words of wisdom. So, this two Jews, three opinions is not an argumentative concept. It is a concept of bringing your side of understanding something together with someone else's and coming up with a brand new
Third.
opinion based on conversation.
That's brilliant. I love that.
I know the whole book is like this. I'm loving this book. It's just wonderful. I'll put it in the chat if anyone's interested.
What's the explanation for two Jews, three synagogues?
Hey, listen, this conversation is going to get good because we are going to talk about building a structure, and here we are, a congregation that thrives without a structure of our own. So, good stuff to come.
Well, here we are at Terumah, a set of blueprints, or maybe we could call it the ultimate building permit for the Israelites to build the Mishkan, the traveling tabernacle used during the 40 years of wandering, and the plans and parts lists for some of the ceremonial symbols that we still use today. This is a stone and glass mosaic believed to be about 1400 to 1500 years old from the floor of a Byzantine-era synagogue at Beit She'an in the Jezreel Valley. Uncovered in the 1920s, it's on display at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. The mosaic shows the Torah ark at the center, the tasseled curtain over it. On either side, menorahs and shofars and incense shovels, the decorated floor typical of early synagogues, and the Beit She'an mosaic is considered one of the best preserved examples.
I've seen that. I've gone to see that.
Have you seen that one?
Well, I've gone. I'm surprised it's at the Israel Museum now because I've seen it at Bet Shan. And I looked at this and I thought, oh, snow.
Well, from that to a contemporary impressionist take on the menorah by Israeli artist Yossi Biton. Born in Tzvat, he was inspired by the creative energy of that city's long-established art colony, and his work ranges from the impressionist and abstract to classical styles, combining religious significance with his artistic sensibility. Yossi Biton currently lives and works in Israel. In Jerusalem, rather. Among the very specific designs in Terumah are the details. Excuse me?
Oh, I think maybe everyone should mute while Alan is doing this.
Oh, okay. No, if there's somebody who wants to stop or have a question. But among the very specific designs are details for the container to hold the tablets of the law, the Ark of the Covenant. Here it is being carried by the Levites, as painted by someone we do feature regularly because he did so many biblical paintings, French-born Jacques Tissot, also known as James Tissot, during the years he lived and worked in Victorian England. His meticulously researched watercolors incorporate many details in the parashot. In this case, for instance, the acacia wood poles through the golden ringlets to carry the ark, to the fearsome sculptured cherubs guarding over it. Tissot's work may have inspired the Ark's Hollywood close-up in 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Director Steven Spielberg and writer George Lucas turned to a pair of British sculptors to recreate the Ark for the first Indiana Jones adventure. The body of the Aron carved by Brian Muir, the winged cherubim, the work of Keith Short. From the Women of the Book project that a decade ago commissioned 54 Jewish women artists from around the world to create original works inspired by the Torah Parshot, Terumah is by San Francisco-based Beth Grossman, who describes herself as a socio-political artist who sees the visual as a way to create community dialogue. Why a bird's nest? The artist explains it's all about community.
As I was researching this parsha, the question that came to mind was, Why did God ask the Israelites to build a temporary structure of the finest metals and skins and cloths so that God may dwell among them? And why was it necessary for there to be a designated sacred space when, as I understand it, Judaism is a time-based religion? I was inspired by Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who said that to be sacred, a thing had to be consecrated by a conscious act of man. I believe that the tabernacle is everywhere, and like all of nature and humanity, it is temporary. But the spirit of the tabernacle is eternal, and it can be found in everything from the grandeur of the universe down to the small found twigs used to build a nest, if we consecrate it as sacred. While I was working on the project, the image of a nest kept coming to me, and the bird gathers gifts from nature and it innately knows how to build its nest. And like the bird, I gathered threads of purple, blue, crimson, gold, and silver as designated in the instructions for building the tabernacle. A cloud is mentioned that would move and would signify to the Israelites when they were to pack up and move the tabernacle. And I envision this as a large flock of birds hovering over the nest in community. The phenomenon of coordinated high-speed movements of flocks of birds is called murmurations, and it continually fluctuates like a cloud. And it appears to turn and move as a single unit, but there isn't really a leader. Basically, individual birds make sudden decisions, and that determines the flock's movements. And each bird is deeply connected to all the other birds. And this is a collaborative community effort that is central to their survival. And it seemed like a perfect metaphor for our collaboration being central to Jewish survival.
That's Beth Grossman and her Terumah art for Women of the Book. Those multicolored threads she mentioned are woven together in the Terumah painting by Alabama artist and environmentalist and educator Star Weems from her Ancient Illuminations series of Torah-inspired art. Karen Foreman has the completed Mishkan in this painting from her Parshot Illustrations collection. With the mountains of the Sinai wilderness rising in the background, she shows a fire on the sacrificial altar and that cloud signifying a holy presence and leading the people on the journey. Born in Switzerland, Karen Foreman now lives and works in California's Santa Rosa Valley. Along with her paintings and designs, she's also an award-winning nature and travel photographer. Canadian multimedia artist Maxine Lee Iwashuk focuses on the donations, contributions from the community to create the Mishkan. Taking note of the materials listed in the Parsha, she uses multiple levels of media on top of a painted scene inspired by the Midrash. The pyramids of the donation piles recall their sources, the riches that the Israelites borrowed from their Egyptian neighbors when they departed. And she concentrates on the women who, according to Midrash, donated their valuables to building the Mishkan instead of the golden calf. Born in Korea and raised Jewish in Toronto by her adoptive parents, she uses embroidery stitches and painting to illuminate Torah themes, blending her Judaism and Korean heritage. And Pennsylvania-based Joanne Fink, an artist, liturgist, and, as she puts it, lifelong spiritual seeker, focuses less on the structure and more on the people who create and more on the sense of community that the project creates in them. As the artist explains, Terumah reminds us that sacred space doesn't begin with architecture. It begins with willing hearts. That's from Joanne Fink. And that is art for this take on Terumah.
Alan, before you go off that screen, can you go one back? Okay,
What's
so
the
the corner
person in
of,
the front?
in
That
yeah,
the person in the front, she explains that there's another midrash. I shortened some of the information about it. She explains that there's another midrash that the women donated their mirrors, and Moses originally rejected them, but then realized that the women's looks attracted the men and kept the men in the community, so allowed the mirrors into the collection of materials for the Mishkan. And so that's a woman with a mirror bringing it as her donation.
Oh, wow.
because the wording at the corner there, Kedat Moshe v'Israel, those are the words in a wedding ceremony.
Yes, they are.
When the ring is given, and the saying that goes with it, B'taba'at zo harei et mekudeshet li, with this ring you are consecrated to me, Kedat Moshe v'Israel, as the dat is a hard one to translate, but as a, let's just say, tradition of Moses and Israel. In other words, the two being together is the point, that it's a covenant between two people. As Moshe and Israel are bound in covenant. So I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know where that came from. The explanation with the mirror makes a little bit of sense in terms of what the vanity part and the beauty and the distraction. So I'm going to try to pursue that one a little bit, see what sense I can make of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Arnie?
I was just going to say that our own Kodesh is made of acacia wood. Koa is an acacia, like Kiavi and some other trees we have.
Okay, I'm going to look that up later. I just put a little bookmark for me, and if I have time, I'll look it up. Well, that was beautiful. Thank you, Alan.
That was really nice, Alan.
No. Thank you.
New stuff. By the way, I was reading just headlines this morning, make sure the world is still standing, and either the New York Times or Washington Post has an article about aging, of course, and some of the lifelong things that you do that can ward off Alzheimer's. And some of them are very, did you read it, David? Okay. But it's kind of lifelong. So, of course, reading out loud to your children and having books and art at home and atlases and different things like that. But the theme of art was present in all of the generations, because like visiting museums and things like that were something that should be lifelong, to be exposed to, I guess, lots of interpretations and ways that we perceive the world. Anyhow, I thought that was interesting. So that's why, Alan, in addition to all the responsibilities that you keep bringing onto yourself to keep our little community alive, one thing I have no doubt, you're never getting Alzheimer's.
Oh,
I was nodding my head. I hadn't heard about the art connection, but just simply the different ways of staving off Alzheimer's or whatever. So that's very interesting. So
Yeah.
thank you,
I
Avia.
read-
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah,
I'll
I
read
read
it later.
about speed games as warding off Alzheimer's. So that reminded me of all the old men in the synagogue davening, and they'd go through a prayer before I'd even get halfway through it. They're Amen, and I'm sure that's why they lasted so long.
Before we start, I'm going to say this, we have permission to gloss through and read quickly because they're concepts. And, we can get caught on the details, but I'd like to look at greater concepts. But in the details, there are greater concepts. So every now and again, as we read, I will pick out a sentence that we can dwell on for a minute. Before we read, I want to read the last 3 lines from the last parasha. When Moses had ascended the mountain, we're not there yet.
You're rushing.
Sorry, my brain is like unrushing.
No.
Okay, let's do things. I was waiting for Ruth Ellen to come, and she's not here, so we might have to do the Misha Berach without her.
well, we do have Sarah here, and so always want to keep up with how she's doing and wish her the best.
Yep. Okay, let's start the Misha Berach. Sarah, for you, we're saying Misha Berach. And might as well add others from our community that just come to mind. I'm closing my eyes for a minute. Marilyn.
Thank you. I'm here.
Yeah, we're always happy you're here. Let's add Marilyn, who I hope joins us in a different way if she's not here.
Marilyn's coming soon.
Good. Okay. We have Mike and Sherry and Alice and Jan, and we'll add Trina, who lost her mother a couple of weeks ago. And if you want to unmute and say a name out loud or put it in the chat, either way.
I'm back on.
All right. Okay, we're saying Mishiberach if you have a name you want to add.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And I know I'm trying to not make this sound cynical, but for all those who can wreak havoc in the world because something in their life doesn't feel right, I wish them good health so that they use good judgment. That's all I'm going to say.
Magnanimous.
What was that?
Magnanimous.
Well, I don't know what to say. I find myself speechless in the face of.
No, I think it's wise what you just said.
Hope someone's listening.
I was.
Okay, that this falls to you. I'm sorry.
Mi sheberach avotenu makor habaracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu makor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
This is fun to unmute and have a cacophony. Baruch
Baruch
atah
atah
Adonai
Adonai,
Eloheinu
Eloheinu, melech
melech
haolam,
haolam
asher
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 kidshanu
kisanu b'mitzvotav,
b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu
v'tzivanu
la'asok
la'asok
b'divrei
b'divrei Torah.
Torah.
Okay, now I can say what I wanted to say. This is the next three parashot are very tough to get through. They're very, very detailed, and it feels like the details overtake our ability to see things clearly. At least that's my experience. And so it's useful to go back to the last few lines, which I'm just going to read, Alan, you know have to find them, and then realize that also there's a concept that says that the Torah does not need to be read chronologically. And we also, as modern Jews, don't necessarily believe that it was written chronologically. So there's an inconsistency that will become apparent as we read. So I just want to read the last few lines to give context. When Moses had ascended the mountain, the cloud covered the mountain. The presence of Adonai abode on Mount Sinai, and the cloud hid it for 6 days. On the seventh day, God called to Moses from the midst of the cloud. Now the presence of Adonai appeared in the sight of the Israelites as a consuming fire on top of the mountain. Moses went inside the cloud and ascended the mountain, and Moses remained on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. And now, let's start reading. Heather, would you like to start us off?
Okay, hopefully my internet will stay.
Okay.
And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelites that they may take me a donation from every man as his heart may urge him. You shall take my donation. And this is the donation that you shall take from them: gold and silver and bronze and indigo and purple and crimson and linen and goat hair and red and ram skins and ochre dyed skins and acacia wood, oil for the lamp, spices for the anointing oil and for the aromatic incense, carnelian stones and stones for setting in the ephod and in the breastplate. And they shall make me a tabernacle that I may abide in their midst. And All that I show you, the form of the tabernacle and the form of all its furnishings, thus shall you make it.
Okay, we're going to stop.
Okay.
There are a few seminal lines in Torah that everybody seems to know for their lifetimes, and one of them is here. We have to stop and give it its due. Yehuda had an interesting observation this morning. You want to share it with all of us?
Sure. First, to segue from what you said before about how it's not important to study everything in order. It's suggested that this whole parsha was written by the P writer, and that's pretty important. That's the priestly writer, and is considered to be a retrojection, meaning that it was written after the fact about the past, and therefore my what I came to today was, well, Aviva considers the most important line here is line 2. Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart is so moved. And in addition to that, everything that happens in this parsha is a community building exercise. Nobody knows how to work the threads and the wood and the metal. Everybody has their own specialty, and to build the Aron Kodesh and the tabernacle and the tent of meeting and all that require a community to build it. So therefore, this was a community effort. But if we build on the thing that it's not a given that everything came in order in the parsha, the very next major thing that happens from this is the golden calf, because the people lose their focus when they don't see Moses for 40 days and 40 nights. And therefore they build the golden calf. And the epiphany I had this morning was this was sort of, once again, we're thinking God is trying to figure out how to be God. And that one of the things that he realizes from the golden calf is that the people actually know how to organize themselves to work together as a community, but their focus is off, because their focus in this case was the focus of the golden calf rather than building the Mishkan, the tabernacle and the tent of meeting and all that. And that was my epiphany, that God was watching the people and said, we need to redirect their energies, because normally the golden calf is considered a really, it's a slur on the Jews, and yet it could be just yet the building stone that led to the creation of the tabernacle.
Alan, go ahead.
I wanted to ask about line 8. They shall make me a tabernacle that I may abide in their midst. And I guess because it's, the Sunday school concept of God is everywhere. There isn't a single place that you go to that prayers or whatever we offer, no matter where we are it's something that is worthy of doing. Yet this idea of just having having this place that is for direct communication, it feels like, I don't know if this is tied to what Yehuda was saying about this coming from the priestly group and saying, okay, this is our job and we better make sure that it's secure, so put that in there, or whether there's something specific about the place, and also the place is going to move with the people. So it's a little confusing to me.
Don't you think it's a metaphor? That, instead of God being up on the mountain where you can't see him, where Moses disappeared to interact with God, that God also has this other realization as he's learning how to be God, that he actually needs to reside within the people and with the people around him, and so that he's accessible. Basically, it's an accessibility line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's hear Matan. I do have a lot to say on that, unfortunately, but I would really rather hear other people at first. So, Matan?
Yeah, it seems to me that there's kind of an evolution. And the earliest point of view, and this is similar in the pagan world, is that the god or gods or goddesses are tied to a specific place. And once you have left that place, you are out of communication with that god or goddess. And there are elements of that, and we have some of that still in our liturgy, like we say, Ki mitzion tetse Torah, from Zion, Mount Zion, descends basically the Torah. And so it's tied to a certain place. And that's why they were so bereft when they were taken to Babylon in the Babylonian exile. They thought they were leaving God behind. But that's a relatively primitive point of view. The more modern point of view, of course, is that, like you say, God is everywhere.
So there are three really important concepts just in these first lines, which will come to address Alan's question as well. Number one is the idea of the freedom of how the heart moves. So there's no coercion here. And this is a hard one to translate because it doesn't say however generous you might be in the first couple of lines. It implies very clearly, in the Hebrew it's clearer, that only if they are willing. In other words, ask of them to give me, vaikhu li, give me a donation, each one according to the generosity of their heart. That in English implies each one according to their ability, but it's not that. It's each one according to their desire to do it, period. Not the amount they can give, but their desire. That's number one. And
Wasn't there a
contrast,
requirement to have that everybody in another part that everybody had to give a half a shekel?
uh, I'm not sure, I don't remember. But let me finish with this thought because I'm contrasting it to the idea of when the actual physical temple was built by King Solomon. It was not built by people who freely were doing it. They were actually laborers. And so there's an argument that says that that temple was destroyed because it wasn't built because of people's desire to build. It was built by laborers who had to build it. Not that far from the idea of Egypt. Okay, so that's one concept I wanted to bring in. And then one of the most seminal lines of Torah, Ba'asur li mikdash v'shachanti betocham. Let them make me a sanctuary. Where does the word mikdash come from? Kadosh. Let them make me a holy place for lama, why? Lima'an, that I may dwell among them. And that is actually the most key concept there. It is absolutely not about all the other ways that the Israelites may have known how you honor God by bringing your best things. It's also a very important point that counters the idea of, which we're going to read about, all these things you bring that are hard to find. And you have to bring them in order to what? Honor God? No, it is about honoring the God in the human. And we'll tie this in a few sentences where we read about the Kruvim, the cherubs, and who are they facing?
Each
Not
other.
facing upward, they're facing each other. And the terminology is it's like brother to sister, a brother facing sister, or a human facing another human, or a man facing a woman. It is always, God's presence is not up there. It's always in between people. Like how you acknowledge God's presence is not by what sacrifice you make, but how you treat each other. And this is the beginning of the journey to establish and break away from the idea of honoring some deity. That's not what God asks of us. It's to honor each human. So this is why I think this sentence is really important. What is dwelling so that I may dwell among them? And so that's, as we read the obscure lines, those are the ones I'm going to try to point out because that's what I was listening to this week is this concept. Sarah, did you want to say something?
No,
Okay. Your box turned green. I wasn't sure if I was talking over you.
Oh, no, no.
Okay. And then Reba says, are people expected to want to give freely? Yeah, I think the idea of free will offering, which is not a Jewish concept. It's a very Christian concept. And in our concert that we just had, the Kona Choral Society, big emphasis. It's a free concert for the community, but there are free will offering boxes, and the offering is not be kind to each other. Offerings, we need money to keep this chorus going. Like, it's a really clear thing that there's a place for that. But in this concept, in this reading, especially as you read the second line, that it does not say anything about material things. And it does not imply material things. It implies generosity of the heart. Anybody want to add anything to that before we read a little more?
It reminds me of the wedding song from Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Wait, which line?
When two or three are gathered in my name, there is love.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I was intrigued by that line in one of the slides that Alan showed, where it was clearly those lines that's where you hear them. You hear them at weddings. So, okay, so now we're going to read, Alan, just 10 through 22, and then in the next reading we'll finish chapter 25. So, a reader. Arnie, I'm nominating you because you're
Okay.
not muted. Okay.
Okay. And they shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits its length, and 1.5 cubits its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, inside and outside you shall overlay it. You shall make upon it golden molding all around. You shall cast for it 4 golden rings, and set them on 4 feet, and the 2 rings on its one side, and 2 rings on the other side. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. You shall bring the poles through the rings on the sides of the ark to carry the ark with them. In the rings of the ark the poles must be, and they shall not come out. And you shall set the ark, the tablets of the covenant that I shall give you. And you shall make a cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits in length, and 1.5 cubits at its width. You shall make 2 cherubim of gold, hammered work. You shall make them at the 2 edges of the cover. And make 1 cherub at one edge, and 1 cherub at the other edge. From the cover you shall make the cherubim at both its edges. And the cherubim shall spread wings above, shielding the cover with their wings, and their faces towards each other. Towards the cover the faces of the cherubim shall be. And you shall set the covering upon the ark from above, and in the ark you shall set the tablets of the covenant, and I shall give you. And I shall meet with you there, and speak with you from above the covering between the 2 cherubim that are on top of the ark of the covenant, and I shall charge you regarding the Israelites. The cadence of that reminds me of a song, more than a poem. It seems like it was probably sung at some point.
Yeah, I could see that. So definitely there's, what Yuda was mentioning, the lack of logical order, because we're not going to read the story of the golden calf until next parasha. No, 2 more.
2.
2 more. There's Tetzaveh and then Kitisa. So that the notion, it's as if it's already known how the Israelites were able to use precious material to build the most profound thing that they could bow down to and pray to and hope for. And so using that imagery ahead of time here, it almost feels like it's an acknowledgement. Well, this is what the Israelites understand about honoring, so let's go for it. Let's actually make them work really hard for it and go to the ends of the earth to find the materials and go deep into their souls to find the talents. There's that. So the idea of it, the time traveling to make the story work out, seems to make sense here.
What doesn't make sense is they would carry a forge into the desert to melt the silver and the gold and everything else, I guess there might be ancient techniques using charcoal and bellows and stuff like that where you could get the metal hot enough, but it seems like it'd be a difficult task.
Before I call on Vic, Alan, can you explain
I
why
w-
this is your role?
I was just going to say, Arnie now joins the "Where'd they get this stuff" club.
Anyhow, Vic, you had your hand up, so go ahead and unmute, and Sarah, you're after Vic.
It also shows to Moses' background. Moses grew up in places where they had hammered gold. And he's got a good eye for it. And so that shows.
You're
knows
not
exactly
saying
what.
that Moses. You're not saying that Moses is directing this, though.
Yeah, yeah. It at least has that flavor of he knows what he wants and to small details.
Sarah?
So I was reading from the actually, let me back up from the club of where did it come from. I was reading Rashi said that Jacob actually brought the acacia wood, because you're thinking about all this acacia wood schlepping it through the desert, right? That he also brought that from the Holy Land originally. And I read that when he traveled to Beersheba, he uprooted these trees and took them with him and planted them, that they were originally planted by Abraham, and that he took them with him into, I think, Beersheba, when he went to Beersheba, and planted them there because he knew that there would be this exile. Being a prophet, he could see that there would be this exile, and that it would be, a consolation to know that these trees were there. So they actually originated in the Holy Land. It's a little much for me to comprehend personally, but yeah, anyway. And then there was this rabbi, Tahum, and from the word Tahuma, which means it gave them consolation that the trees were already there, that the wood was already there. Kind of interesting.
Interesting concept that whenever people set out on a journey, they carry with them necessities. And we know from the Polynesians who came to Hawaii that they carried with them canoe planks because you got to think of the future. So if Abraham was thinking of a future, that may have been a big leap to think of a precious wood to plant to be available for whatever it may be needed.
You never know, right? I mean, if they were prophets, they could maybe foresee some of this. They lived out there and they were always moving around. So exile probably wasn't that far of a concept for them to gather. And also it kind of was the same, this kind of idea of the acacia wood being a consolation for them goes along with the idea that Joseph chose to be buried in Egypt. And then he was taken out or embalmed and carried out later by the people also to give them consolation during this period of exile. So the acacia trees and the idea that Joseph went with them, kind of interesting because Joseph also came from the Holy Land originally. and went into Egypt along with the acacia trees, kind of a double consolation prize.
Alan and then Arnie.
A couple of thoughts occurred to me about the sizes, because I've always been curious about why things had to be a specific size. And when we're talking about the lumber, that means they had to have the means of cutting the trees into boards, and so there, the idea of the tools that are required as well as the skills comes to mind. But what struck me about this is that thinking about the size of a typical aron and the size of what the tablets may have been, it puts it on a very human scale. It's not like it's a grand monument. It's not like what they built in Egypt, with giant statues of the pharaohs and their gods, but something that was compact enough to be carried by a person and that would fit in this container that was these specific sizes. And I think that maybe that the portability is one factor, but the other is that it's not something that we're necessarily supposed to be looking up in awe at, but it's something that we can actually grasp. It's within our reach. It's our size.
I think you're right. This is a cubit right here, from here to here. And that is, so basically you're saying that the ark itself was maybe 2 feet by 4 feet, no more.
I thought the whole thing of writing down the sizes was to make it easier for future Hollywood producers to, whatever. Anyhow, Arnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Sarah's point is interesting because acacia wood, as I know it, is kiavi, and kiavi makes these nutritious pods. Matter of fact, some guy up in Kohala is making flour out of it now. But I've eaten kiavi pods. They're very much like carob pods or other relatives of that family. They're really sweet and delicious. And I was thinking how much that thing must have weighed, because kiavi wood is pretty heavy. Plus, you got some stone tablets inside, and
Plus a talent of gold, which is about 150 pounds.
Yeah, could 4 guys really carry that for a great distance, or I don't know, or even lift it up?
Maybe God helped.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know, but you would figure that kiavi trees would grow in the desert, and that people who traveled that route through the desert would have planted them along with palms and anything else they could grow to get sustenance from on their trips.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Vic.
I got a kiavi tree in the backyard. I've been pruning it all week. It just grows, it shoots up, and all of a sudden you got a 70-foot tall tree. So you got to go out there and chop pieces off of it.
It's not just that it's a big tree, it's that it's spiny.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it'll go right. I've had it go through my slipper before.
Yeah.
It's pretty dangerous stuff.
Yeah, and I wondered if I don't know if all acacia has that characteristic, because those agave thorns or spines, whatever to call them, they're like weapons.
No, koa wood doesn't have spines.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. The acacia is a big family. It's leguminous, huge family of plants.
Right. And we eat the legumes. We do.
On the Hawaii, the missionaries planted it. Like if you go down to Makalavena and other beaches on the Big Island, you find it on the beaches, which the missionaries planted to keep the Hawaiians from settling on the beaches, so that because they thought they were lazy, just laying around fishing all day and pounding poi. So that's what I learned and taught, is how it got on the beaches.
I also heard the Catholic missionaries thought that it reminded them of the crown of thorns that Jesus had or something.
It might be, but these were the first Protestant
Yeah.
missionaries that came. Yeah.
The kiavi was also brought for cattle feed. The cattle can eat that with their rough mouths.
That's right. That's right.
That would probably also work into it.
But specifically, the kiavi on the beach was,
Mhm.
to discourage villages from being there. Also, a lot of the materials on the Mishkan were solid gold, so it must have been very heavy. I'm not sure. I don't think that the side rails that they used to carry them were solid. I think they were gold plated, but the angels, are the angels? Yeah, the angels on the top were solid gold, supposedly carved out of one piece of gold. As
About
was the
those.
menorah. Yeah.
About the cheruvim, they're described in very specific detail in terms of their form and wings and things like that. We haven't had that before. We've had strangers show up, or people show up who are messengers or somehow related to the some sort of heavenly or godly messenger, but we didn't get a physical description. They're just described as people, or as a man, or as like whoever Yaakov wrestled with. And in this case, we get a very very clear description of what is supposed to be an ethereal being.
Is there somewhere where they rank cherubim and angels and all this other stuff in the Tanakh? Where do cherubim stand in the celestial order of things? Are they,
They're below humans.
but they're below or above?
Below. Because we have free will, they don't. That's at least one concept that I've come across somewhere.
So how are they compared to angels?
They are the cherubs are angels.
Oh.
Yehuda?
I want to suggest a problem here, and plus the solution built in. The second commandment, which we just received, says no graven images. And here we made some graven images. But the solution is this was only found in the inner sanctum. So that the people, even though the people were never confronted with the fact that a graven image was made, because only the highest priest and Moses went in and saw these cherubim.
I do want to point out, though, that when we know the whole story, and we know that the idea of actually building a physical temple didn't quite work out because it doesn't exist, that all of this conversation we're having, I like to keep that in mind as an overriding principle. What I'm seeing is, okay, so the last parasha ended, we had the whole, twice in the last 2 weeks, we heard the term na'aseh, we will do. And then only toward the end of the last parasha, we had the na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear. So it's almost as if God says, okay, now let's put that doing into some action. Like, what are you actually doing? Because I've provided everything until now, and you still whined. right? He said, we're thirsty, we got water. You whined about going back to Egypt. What, are we going to die here in the desert? We could have died back in Egypt, right? So it's almost as if God is saying, okay, here you go. Here's some building materials and instructions. Let's see if you can do this without killing each other. It's the beginning of the test. Are we actually going to embark on this journey? First, you have to prove that you can do this without killing each other. But even more on the positive is how you bring the best attributes of a people striving to be free. Because you guys know me for all these years. I've come to one thing that's my overriding principle. All of the instruction manual is all about living together in society without killing each other and honoring every person. So here we go. Here's some Legos. Here's the instruction manual. It's not, can you do it? Of course, humans have the ingenuity to do, but can you do it and retain a sense of society and recognizing each person in society? That's the building. That's the building the space that God will dwell in, each of us. We have just a few more instructions to get through. I was actually thinking we would only, let's see, how did I divide it? Okay, let's do 23 through 40 now. We got through 22, 23 through 40. Whoever is unmuted and starts reading gets to read.
And you shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits its length, and a cubit its width, and a cubit and a half its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, and make for it a golden molding all around. And you shall make a frame for it, a hand's breadth all around. And you shall make a golden molding for its frame all around. And you shall make 4 gold rings for it, and set the rings at the 4 corners, which are at its 4 legs. Facing the frame, the rings shall be as housings for the poles to carry the table. And you shall make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be carried with them. And you shall make its bowls, and its shovels, and its jars, and its chalices, from which libation is done. Pure gold you shall make them. And you shall set them on the table, the bread of the presence before me perpetually. And you shall make a lampstand of pure gold, hammered work it shall be made, its base and its shaft, its cups, its calyxes, and its blossoms shall be from that work. And 6 shafts going out from its sides, 3 shafts of the lampstand from its one side, and 3 shafts of the lampstand from its other side. 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms in the one shaft, calyx and blossom, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms in the other shaft, calyx and blossom. Thus for the 6 shafts that go out from the lampstand. And on the lampstand 4 cups shall like almond blossoms, their calyxes and their blossoms. And a calyx is part of it under every 2 shafts. A calyx is part of it under every 2 shafts for the 6 shafts coming out from the lampstand. Their calyxes and their shafts shall be part of it, all of it one hammered work, pure gold. And you shall make it 7 lamps, and its lamps shall be mounted and give light in front of it. And its tongs and its fire pans, pure gold. With a talent of pure gold shall it be made together with all these furnishings. And see and make it by their pattern, which you are shown on the mountain. Very fancy.
You are shown on the mountain.
I want to show you something here, if you can see it.
That's a plant, right?
It certainly is, and it's a plant that you find in Israel.
Yeah, I've read about that.
Wait, can you hold it up again? I'm counting the branches.
It's got 8 plus a center.
Right.
You're catching the tip it so that it doesn't reflect the light on.
I'm trying.
This end. Okay.
Your
Is that
screen
better?
is blank.
I don't know. I
Oops.
see Arnie. I don't
Oops,
see it.
the screen's blank. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
called a Maria.
A Maria with an A or a
Moriah.
Okay.
It's considered a biblical plant, and I wanted to show you also this particular thing too, that is actually part of a very large Chanukiah we have. That it's sort of made in that same kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Here, but the menorah on the ark didn't have.
Well, here the
Um,
calyx is. It's in the it's basically in the shape of almond blossoms.
No, I mean, how many branches?
Well, that our Chanukiah has, it's for Hanukkah, so
So that's six.
it's got 8
Six
plus
and
the
eight.
shamas. So
No,
similar
no,
to
I
the
mean
one, similar
the
to the plant
original
I
one.
just showed you.
The original one for the ark did not have 8.
It wasn't in the ark. It was the brass stand, the candle stand.
What is
Oh, the
called the
candle stand, but
menorah,
it's a menorah, right?
right?
That's the original menorah.
A menorah is not a Chanukiah.
Right.
In
No.
English, they've come to represent one and the same. A menorah specifically has
Right.
3 and
That's
3 and one in the middle,
right.
just like we just
That's
read
what.
the description.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I'm getting at. Okay.
Yep.
And that menorah, that's the one.
Yeah. Can you see what Alan is sharing?
That's also the menorah from the ark. It is said, I don't know by who, is also the menorah that they built for the ark. Is that the one that burned for 8 days during the Babylonian siege? After the Babylonian siege, I believe I heard that too, or read that too. Didn't the Babylonians carry the ark away, or wasn't a large part of the genealogy lost, or some of the genealogy lost in the Babylonian siege?
This is a menorah. It's
Mhm.
not a Chanukiah.
Okay, so Matan shared in the chat the emblem. That's the emblem of the state of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
No, I mean,
We get that image because of the Arch of Titus
Mm-hmm.
that, is shown the Romans, Titus, the general at that point, carrying out all the loot from the temple. And they built this big arch, and the menorah is depicted. Otherwise, we might not know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not the Babylonians, it was
Well, no,
Titus.
2 different raids, 2 different menorahs.
Yeah, right. Oh, 2 different menorahs. Yeah, okay.
Interesting enough, I read, why we have 8 candles on Hanukkah. And, I had always heard, because it took that many days to purify the oil. But this other opinion is there were 8 decisive battles that the Maccabees won to overthrow the Seleucids. So that's a whole different tradition.
Yeah, because I believe it was the Babylonians that carried the original one out, that it was in Solomon's temple. And that's maybe, I don't know if that's, but then how could it burn for 8 days? I don't know. I'm confused. But I think it was them that carried it out.
Oh, that's true. The Babylonians raided.
Oh,
There was a
it could
couple
be carried
raids.
away from the Arch of Titus.
No, that's the Romans. That
That's
came
the
later.
second one, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's Herod's temple.
So then it couldn't be the menorah that burned the oil for 8 days. If the Babylonians carried it out.
That's right. It was another menorah, I guess.
I don't know. I'm confused now.
Well,
You
Peace
can be
quietly.
confused, but don't let that stand in the way of
Oh
gaining
no,
wisdom.
no. I mean, it's just kind of interesting to figure it out.
Yeah.
This is the image from. This is the part of the carving in the arch of Titus,
Titus.
and so it shows the menorah from the temple being carried to Rome.
So that's the second temple.
Hmm.
Mm.
But I think that parallel of the idea of the Mishkan, which we did not talk about the actual word Mishkan and what it means, but we will, being something that everybody's invested in versus the actual temples that were built, that were destroyed. The concept, the temples that were built under different circumstances, instructions given by people, not by God, with the purpose of having a place to bring sacrifices, those were destroyed. And that is the light with which I read these parashot. It is the instruction is not to build a physical temple for all time that you have to go to on a pilgrimage, but rather a place in your heart for godliness that goes with you everywhere. That's, so, I'm talking generalities, the specifics of which menorah went to exile and how we came to the 8. I don't know that. It's kind of intriguing to find it out, but I have not
Yeah, because
done.
it's contradictory, because if it burned for 8 days, that was probably after the Babylonians, after they destroyed the temple, then how could they carry it off?
Well,
Doesn't make
let's hear
sense.
Arnie. Let's hear Arnie, but then let's talk a little bit about numbers and what they mean, because numbers do mean something in our stories. So, Arnie?
So, okay. So the Seleucids, the Greeks, destroyed the first temple, and Jews are carried away to Babylon. Persia overtakes the Greeks and sends the Jews back to the Holy Land with some money to rebuild that temple. So that's the first reconstruction. And then later on, Herod comes along and does the second construction of the temple. So, it was actually built 3 times if you look at the timeline. And the story I was telling of the 8 days was the reconstruction of the first one. Interesting enough, Cyrus is the only person mentioned in the Torah as being a Messiah, a Mashiach. No one else is mentioned as being a Mashiach, but Cyrus is, and he's not even Jewish.
You have to give me more context. I'm not that familiar with that.
I got to look it up. I'll send it to you later.
Okay. Let's just bring in the idea of numbers back into the conversation, because there are a lot of numbers with idea of building. So notice I started us off by reading the last few lines of the last parasha, Mishpatim, which was Moses going into the mountain and disappearing for 40 days and 40 nights. Where else do we have example of 40 days and 40 nights being very, very prominent and very scary and very defining?
The ark, the flood.
The flood.
That's
Yeah.
right. So, in the same way, once people entered the ark and the rain started, do you guys remember COVID when we started doing this together? There was a sense every morning of, well, we thought it'd be maybe a month or so because we had faith in institutions and human ingenuity. And then as we dragged in a little bit farther, our faith in society not wrenching itself apart started fading because people started doubting institutions. And though there was technology, we knew we had technology to develop vaccines quickly. The problem was not that, the problem was faith in whatever, you can fill in the blank. And So the concept when we started waking up into the first month of COVID or the second month was what was really scary was not today. It was not knowing the rest of our life we get off the island. Well, we have our family who doesn't live there. Like all those bigger things came into play. I'll call you in just a minute, Marilyn. And so that's the scary part, that using the 40 days and 40 nights of Moses disappearing comes from nowhere. It could have been 39, it could have been 45. The idea that once a concept is introduced in the Torah, that concept doesn't go away. So when we are reading about 40 days and 40 nights, we are meant to think of the possible anguish, control, possible faith, because how many days in a stinking ark with all the animals, when people start to say, I don't know if I want all of this, right? So the 40 days and 40 nights is a match. Now, throughout this, we have actual measurements. The term for comes in many times. So for is reminiscent of the entirety of the world. We have the term the four corners of the world, right? So when we talk about for, that's kind of one of the concepts we're meant to think about. It is much greater than just what we can see or what we experience right here, right now. Okay, so that's one example. We know about the term 7, and 8 is a very important one because 8 is one more than 7. What happens after the Shabbat? You start again, right? So the term that you have made it through and we're there again to start over is a very important concept. So when you read 7 or 8 in Torah and multipliers of any of those, they are meant to evoke a feeling that is more than just numerology. Numerology is fascinating, but in plain speak, once we are introduced to the concept of 7 days and then creating a day of rest, because a day of rest is not something that passively happens. It's something that actively happens. And then the beginning of the 8th day, right? So just those numbers come to mind. So I wanted to get that off my chest because numbers are not coincidental ever in our storytelling. Okay, Marilyn.
This isn't about numbers. It's just thinking about the pandemic and the way as humanity reacted to it. I mean, all of us can remember the polio epidemic and them having to give us polio vaccines, and how everybody just lined up in their schools against, out in the halls against the walls, and they came around and administered either sugar cubes or shots, whatever they did. And there wasn't a whole lot of doubt that we should be taking this. Everybody did it. And it was such a different response this time. So kind of crazy. The world seemed like it had gone backwards in its thinking rather than forward, even though we had more technology. The doubt and the distrust and the lack of cooperation. I mean, it just was, there was cooperation in getting the medicine made, but after that, people were just crazy. It just seemed like everybody was kind of mad. And I find it just the contrast for that to happen in our lifetime and be able to see the degradation of society rather than getting stronger and more cohesive and cooperative. All the technology seems to be working to go in the opposite direction. Everybody is an expert. Everybody has the tools to find for themselves, and instead of working together in harmony, we don't necessarily. Interesting. Just
Arnie?
Yeah, I put it in chat, but that a mention of Cyrus is in Isaiah 45:1, if you want to look it up.
And the other Arnie, Matan.
I think it's not a question of everyone is an expert. The issue is that so many people don't respect experts anymore. And there is a little backsliding on that because the epicenter of the measles epidemic is in South Carolina right now.
Mhm.
And a number of children are getting measles which there's no reason to get measles anymore because there's a vaccine. But the parents are seeing this and they're saying, well, maybe we should get our kids vaccinated after all.
Or crazier, maybe the ones that are saying measles is not so bad, just let your kids get measles. There's that too, which is, bizarre. But I was, by the way, using a fair amount of sarcasm when I said we were all experts. That was in ital, not in, me attributing that to the human condition.
So as I read this parasha, and the next few parashot really have to be read together because I don't know where my thinking about one ends and starts again. But the concept that in a good society, there are many talents. And when those talents come together, look what can happen. But overriding that is that it is freedom that's needed for people to be able to actualize their talents. So it's a package kind of thing. The idea of the readiness to be a free society that has the ability to develop a vaccine in one corner of the world that can be used all over the world, right? I'm just using that term vaccine. It's for all. When an innovation happens in one place, it's not limited to that one place if there's freedom in the world. Right. And so, the conspiracy theories against the pharmaceutical companies, they don't come from nowhere. There is a legitimacy that says if you are creating something for your own personal monetary gain, there's something not right about that. If you're creating a vaccine, it's for all humans in its essence. And if you create knowing that you are making it only available to those who can afford it, and keeping it from those who can't, go back and read the manual. Go back to the 40 years. Go back to the beginning of the 40 years.
But in fact, that wasn't done.
There's a lot of good discussion about it. Yeah. And a lot of good discussion about what it means to actually cultivate a talent and help someone else cultivate a talent, because that only comes from freedom. The concept of knowing what your potential is comes into play when you have the spaciousness to actually do it, right? So people all the time in concentration camps, because that's part of our story, had ideas for innovation. And when they actually were freed from the burden, look what happened. The world changed.
It's interesting during the Olympics to be talking about this because of, some countries are free and some athletes are compelled. It's interesting.
Alan?
The numbers are, I think, an interesting study, but I also thought there's something to be said about the sequence of the instructions, because the first thing that is described is the ark for the covenant. So the law came first, or the rules that we need to live by came first. And then the next thing that's described is the lamp, light. So it seems like there's a progression there, or something that we can. I'm sure there's a midrash for all of this, but in fact, there was, when you're talking about the menorah, one of the ones, I think I found this for one of the art sessions earlier, that there's a midrash that Moses couldn't figure out the design for the menorah, but Bezalel, who had this gift, they had this gift of artistic vision, could figure it out right away. And so there is not, it wasn't a simple matter of building these things. It took some artistry. But the fact that light was the second thing that was being presented as something important to the ceremonies in the Mishkan.
Light is another very important concept. And also in what we read, the idea of pure gold,
What was that word?
Pure.
pure gold,
Mhm.
zahav tahor, pure gold. So it's a step beyond the things that you might already possess, like maybe purifying gold to make it even more valuable. In other words, it's of the utmost importance that you put a lot of thought and effort. It's not, people had gold. They collected gold from their neighbors in Egypt before they left. It's not necessarily
Borrowed.
that gold. Arnie?
Well, as someone who's studied metallurgy in college and made jewelry, I'll tell you, the reason they use pure gold was because it's very soft and malleable. And if you add silver to it, or platinum, which is a common practice, it makes it sturdier. And when you think about the design of this menorah with all the details, and if I saw the design that God wanted, I would say we got to cast this because you can't really, wrought it by hammering and the other, maybe dapping and all the other techniques used to make it would be unbelievably difficult. I mean, it'd be so much easier to cast it. So I don't know what Hashem's plan was to make it such a difficult task to create it, but that's what it is.
Sarah?
Okay, I'm unmuted. What came to mind when I was listening to this is that in order to make pure gold, there's the fire component. And it brought to mind Teshuvah and the fact that you have to go through fire to become pure, to have your soul become pure. It's a learning process. It's a process of, because we all do things wrong, and we all have to purify ourselves, purify our souls. And I relate it to the 40 years in the desert that, as a people, we had to go through fire to become pure enough to go into. Why are you making faces? Are you, Aviva? Am I saying something?
No.
I didn't know
I'm looking at
you were
what
like.
Craig posted. Sorry. I'm looking at what Craig posted as I'm listening to you.
Oh,
No, not
okay.
making faces at you.
So it's a little more Kabbalistic take on it, but I thought it was, and this idea of it becoming malleable, the people had to become malleable as well in order to enter Canaan, enter the Holy Land. And so I really see this purification by fire. And when I first left America and went on this journey of seeking, that whole trip was sort of a journey of going through fire, almost like going into war, because you're thrown out there. And very often there's no place of refuge. You get sick. You don't know if somebody's going to kill you. You're just sort of out there, and you really learn to depend on Hashem. Like, you're just saying, okay, God, if you're there, save me, help me get through all this stuff. Who are these people? Like, they're so intense, and they're just like, and your life, it's not like in the United States. Your life is just nothing. Like, there's no place to register in the middle of the desert. And so I think about gold that way, that you have to sort of go through fire and also purify your soul. So that was a little bit of a different take on it.
When you talk about pure gold, when you mine it, it comes out. It is pure. It's adding alloys to it to make it stronger or to spread it out. There's, for whatever reason, but you have to do something to it to make it not pure. I mean, it
Yeah.
comes out of
Yeah.
the earth
Yeah.
pure.
And so every time we sin, we're making that goal. It's sort of like the concept that a baby is born pure. And then as you go through life, you get all this tarnishing and all these alloys are added to your life. And you have to go through a sort of teshuva or a sort of a purification ritual to become that pure gold again. So I like that concept, Marilyn. I mean, you just brought another sort of interesting thing into it that we're all born we all are born pure. I don't believe in original sin or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
No, I think just as human nature, we tend to take shortcuts and not necessarily follow our our primal nature to be I mean, if you will, godlike, to do
And
what we're supposed to.
Yeah, and to get back to the last conversation about why people don't listen, we've never listened. I mean, that's why we're studying Torah. This is the nature of man. There's nothing different about what's going on today politically that wasn't going on, way back when or over time's written history. It's all the same. It's just different details. But the nature of it is still there. It's all the same.
Well, let me put another spin on it. This comes from Rabbi Danny Pressman's Torah study guide. He says, why did the ark have to be covered with gold on the inside where no one would ever see it? Because the line reads, overlay it with pure gold, overlay it inside and out, and make upon it a gold molding. That's 25:11. Okay, so he says, why put the gold on the inside where nobody sees it? The answer is a simple teaching with great power. Torah scholars are teachers of a value system. They're expected to embody that value system inside and out. Further, if they are only good on the outside, when on public display, but not on the inside in their private lives, what then?
Okay. Yes. Very, very same concept, but put differently.
Yeah. Oh, Heather's leaving. Bye, Heather. She's gone.
Right.
All right, let's keep reading.
It's symbolic after all. I mean, it is what you make of it. But if your tallis is pure silk or if it's rayon, I mean, except in the weather, if it makes you sweat, that's a difference. But otherwise, if your heart is seeking God and knowledge and purity, I don't think it really matters what the tallis is made of. It's what you bring to it with your heart, I think.
Well, it's symbolic though of the
That's
natural.
what I just said. Yeah.
It's symbolic of, I think, like if you look at all the things the Mishkan was made of, it represents everything in nature. There was wood, there was gold, there was everything in nature was in it. So from that standpoint, cotton, wool, and you're not supposed to mix them too, right? But they are more natural, whereas rayon is fabricated.
No, it isn't. Rayon is a natural fiber. It's kind of like tapa cloth. It's made from tree bark.
Oh,
really?
I didn't know that.
I know, because it has an on at the end. Everyone thinks it's like nylon, but
I
it's
think you're
natural
right. I think,
fiber.
yeah, that makes sense.
But even
and it's so much less expensive too, which also gives you the sense
So
that it's way more. I mean, it's if you put a rayon shirt next to a silk shirt, I mean, it's going to be half the price.
So my question is it considered halakhic? Anybody know?
Idea. I don't know.
You're not supposed to mix flax
Right.
with
Kitnia.
Right.
with wool, I think that was, yeah.
And is that rayon?
Linen.
But wait, you
Linen
said
is
rayon is
flax,
for
right?
Linen is
rayon is
flax.
flax?
Yeah,
Yeah.
flax, linen is made out of flax also, but you're not supposed to mix it with wool, I think
Right.
was.
True. And
Wait a
yet,
minute.
there's mixing here in these directions, there's mixing. It's sort of like it's once again, there's how do we deal with the fact no graven image is a graven image?
Interesting.
No mixing, there's mixing here.
So you would take exception with the idea of graven image of the cherubim, the kovim, because they are in a human form. They're not. They're meant. I said
To be
this.
protectors?
They're meant to be the understanding that God resides between people, in the relationship between people. That's the best thing I've read this week that I celebrated. That concept that they're facing each other, they are in human form. It's not, don't look to God to guide you how to be a human. Look to humans because they're in the image of God. So facing each other in a human form is the best way to have God be in the presence of humans.
And
It's a very
that's what he
good
says too. Don't come to me first. Go to your others and make peace.
Yes. And if you have wronged someone, make that okay first. Oh,
Right.
That's to me the most overlying important concept in Judaism is the good you do in the world does not face heavenward. It faces people. And that's the symbolism of the Kuruvim. So I don't see it as a graven image. I think there's plenty of good commentary that explains that away. I'm looking for it. I'm finding it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep reading. And where's my note? There it is. I'm going to do a big reading now. There's so much. So let's, you know what? Let's divide it into two. We'll go 1 through 30. No, let's just go 1 through 37. Who has a lot of breath? We're reading all of chapter 26.
I'll go ahead.
All right.
And the tabernacle you shall make with 10 panels of twisted linen and indigo and purple and crimson. With cherubim, designer's work you shall make them. The length of the panel is 28 cubits and a width of 4 cubits to the one panel, a single measure for all the panels. 5 of the panels shall be joined to each other and the other 5 joined to each other. And you shall make indigo loops along the edge of the outermost panel in the set. And thus shall you do on the edge of the outermost panel in the other set. 50 loops you shall make in the one panel, and 50 loops you shall make in the outermost panel, which is in the other set, the loops opposite one another. And you shall make 50 golden clasps, and you shall join the panels to one another with the clasps, that the tabernacle be one whole. And you shall make goat hair panels for a tent over the tabernacle. 11 panels you shall make them. The length of the one panel, 30 cubits, and a width of 4 cubits to the panel, a single measure for the 11 panels. And you shall join 5 of the panels by themselves, and 6 of the panels by themselves, and you shall double over the 6th panel at the front of the tent. And you shall make 50 loops along the edge of the outermost panel in the one set, and 50 loops along the edge of the outermost panel in the other set. And you shall make 50 bronze clasps and bring the clasps through the loops. And you shall join the tent that it become one whole. And the overhang left over in the tent panels, half of the leftover panel you shall let hang over the back of the tabernacle. And the cubit on one side of the cubit on the other, in what is left over in the length of the 10 panels, shall hang over both sides of the tabernacle to cover it. And you shall make a covering for the tent of reddened ram skins, and a covering of ochre-dyed skins above. And you shall make boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood, upright, 10 cubits the length of the board, and a cubit and a half the width of the single board. 2 tenons for the one board linked to each other. Thus you shall do for all the boards of the tabernacle. And you shall make the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the southern end. And 40 silver sockets you shall make beneath the 20 boards, 2 sockets beneath the one board for its 2 tenons, and 2 sockets beneath the other board for its 2 tenons. And on the other side of the tabernacle at the northern end, 20 boards. And there are 50 silver sockets, 2 sockets beneath the one board and 2 sockets beneath the other board. And at the rear of the tabernacle to the west, you shall make 6 boards. And 2 boards you shall make for the corners of the tabernacle at the rear. And they shall match below, and together they shall end at the top inside the one ring. Thus it shall be for the 2 of them. At the 2 corners they shall be. And there shall be 8 boards with their silver sockets, 16 sockets, 2 sockets beneath the one board and 2 sockets beneath the next board. And you shall make cross boards of acacia wood, 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 cross boards for the boards on the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 crossbars for the side of the tabernacle at the rear to the west. And the central crossbar and the middle board shall shoot through from end to end. And the boards you shall overlay with gold, and their rings you shall make of gold, housings for the crossbars, and you shall overlay the crossbars with gold. And you shall set up the tabernacle according to the fashion of it that you are shown on the mountain. And you shall make a curtain of indigo and purple and crimson and twisted linen. Designer's work it shall be made with cherubim. And you shall set it on the 4 acacia posts overlaid with gold, their hooks of gold upon 4 silver sockets. And you shall set the curtain under the clasps, and you shall bring there within the curtain the Ark of the Covenant. And the curtain shall divide for you between the Holy and the Holy of Holies. And you shall set the cover over the Ark of the Covenant in the Holy of Holies. And you shall put the table outside the curtain, and the lampstand facing the table on the side of the tabernacle to the south. And the table you shall set on the northern side. And you shall make a screen for the entrance of the tent, indigo and purple and crimson and twisted linen, embroiderer's work. And you shall make for the screen 5 acacia posts, and you shall overlay them with gold, their hooks gold, and you shall cast for them 5 bronze sockets.
Whew. Yasher Koach.
Can anybody tell me what twisted linen is?
Let's see if
I can't explain to you other than all fibers have to be twisted because they only have a certain length. So when you twist them, it's like spinning wool. You're, adding, to me, I'm very simplistic about the whole instruction thing. To me, it's a way of including specialists. Like you may be the one who grows the linen, but somebody else understands the physics of the fiber and how you look at a plant that makes linen and say, oh, from here to making it into clothing or to making it into whatever, there's more to it. So you may be an expert in growing, but you're no expert in making it into a fiber that can be used. That's someone else. You got to work with that someone else. That to me is the overriding principle of the whole instruction manual. So that I look at it in a very simplistic way. I've never looked into it anymore.
the notes in the Alter translation say it was for strength. It says the cloth panels, yariot, invoke a term generally used for tent coverings, and we are repeatedly reminded that this portable sanctuary, however splendid in gold and silver and bronze and acacia wood, is a tent. Oh, hell. The twisting of linen evidently refers to special technique in the weaving process devised to give the individual threads extra strength.
Yeah, and when they shear the lamb, they actually go through, like if you buy a very expensive garment made of lamb's wool, it's going the wool, the yarn is going to be twisted with the longer strands of wool from the lamb. So that's what it means by those. So there's not a bunch of short ends that fray and wear out faster. You're going to have the longer, and they twist them together for so you have more strength in the wool. That's what it is. And I know that because I watched Raj Sundra on YouTube went through the whole process.
But it fascinates me that there's so much detail in this, and in the creation story, there's let there be light, and there's light, and let there be water, and there's water, and let the fish come out, and this we're talking about overlapping the panels, and this number of sockets, and this number of tenons, and make them out of this material, and it's just.
Well, Alan, one is God doing it, and the other one
Exactly.
is man doing it.
Just what I was thinking.
Okay, so I will read to you from, after Matan, I have something to read. Go ahead, Matan.
Okay, I find it interesting that this is paired with the Haftorah about building Solomon's temple. And I've heard it said that Friedman proposes that all these instructions are really taken from the first temple, the Solomon's temple.
So, okay, so that's the concept I was trying to bring into it. Solomon's temple, the first line of this parasha, Kochol asher idve libenu, from your each according to the generosity of their heart, not the generosity of their amount of money, right? That's the difference. And there is a midrash that says that Solomon's temple was destroyed because it wasn't built on that same concept. It was built by builders who maybe weren't paid well enough, maybe didn't get enough breaks for water or whatever, right? There may have been an element of lack of freedom or lack of
Harmony,
what was that?
a lack of harmony.
Sure.
Like,
Okay. So and that's why the parasha, the pairing of which haftarah goes with which parasha is an art form I have yet to decipher, but this seems to be the common one in the midrash. That idea that the free will of the people is the point. So I want to read to you. This is in reference to what Alan just said, and this is from Pinchas Peli. It's actually the first Torah commentary book that I owned from years ago. Besides the immediate purpose of the campaign to collect materials for the building of a sanctuary, it also serves an educational purpose. To convert the people from passive participants in their relationship with God as constant recipients of his gifts into active partners. The task of bringing holiness into the world, which is the main obligation of the Jew, has always been seen in the Bible as a partnership, a combined project of humans and God. Okay, and this will delve into a little bit more of a discussion we can have later, because what Alan brought in is the concept that leads to Abraham Joshua Heschel's seminal long essay book, The Shabbat, because he very much says that Shabbat is not a passive time; it's an active time. It's building. He calls it castles. What's the term in English?
yeah, architecture of, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So he says, the building of holiness is actual building. It's
Mhm.
just built not on this level where we reside,
Right.
but on a higher level. And he makes that argument for Shabbat being actually a very active, not a passive concept. So there's that, and then well, let's continue this discussion because I have found one more interesting point, but it changes the subject. So carry on.
They all have that.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. Marilyn, something from your area.
Me? There's nothing here.
I don't know.
Birds.
Okay.
You want me to mute it?
No, I don't know where it's coming from because I just look at what box lights up and yours was lighting up. It could be from the park here. There could be kids playing in the park. I'll mute you, though. Okay, again, I get very excited because even though we are in these parashot that are hardest to understand, I spent more time this week trying to understand them, and I found some really good wisdom that I love to share with you guys, but I don't want to monopolize. Okay, well, if I have to, I'm going to, Okay, the concept of the keruvim, the cherubs, again, there are three very specific mentions of them. One is in line, and I'm just going to read, Ellen, you don't have to go looking, 25, in book 25, line 20, it says, the cherubim shall have their wings spread out above, shielding the cover with their wings. They shall confront each other, the faces of the cherubim being turned toward the cover. Now, in this line in Hebrew, it says, Ufnehem ish el achiv, and their faces, a person to his brother in the male form, from one person to his brother. So you have like a guy looking at his brother, right? Now, in chapter 26, both mentions of the cherubim, line 6. Oh no, this is a different mention. Make 50 gold clasps, and couple the cloths to one another with the clasps so that the tabernacle becomes one whole. But in Hebrew, it says, V'asita chamishim chesed, and chibarta et ha'iriyot, and join the panels, a woman to her sister, isha el achota, to make a whole, so that the tabernacle becomes one whole. So here we have a woman and her sister opposite each other to make a whole. We had a man and his brother to make a whole, to make a presence. Now a sister to sister, and then the last one, similar to that. And then it says, and each plank shall have 2 tendons parallel to each other. Do the same with all the planks of the tabernacle. Shtei yadot lakeresh, ha'achat meshulevet isha el achota. One joins a woman to her sister. So again, why are we building this Mishkan? The Hebrew is very different in that it uses the human terms to imply that it's the human connection that's important. So we're reading, oh, you join this panel to this panel, and you're joining this parallel to that, and you have a ring on its end. But in the Hebrew, there's always that image of a person and another person close to, working together to make a whole. So I just thought that was missing in the English. I've read 3 translations to find anyone who uses that, and I haven't seen it. Didn't want to deprive you guys of that knowledge. Oh, Yoda, go ahead. I didn't see your hand up to speak.
Maybe besides the fact that we're reading about the incredible detail that's required to build all this and the accompanying skill sets that come across a vast swath of laborers, this does represent the whole nature of God dwelling within, because that is the detail of the nature that we have surrounding us, that every single small little thing is a miracle in itself, that if we bother to take the time, we can be awed.
So there's one more underlying concept that I want to bring into it, and we can look for it in the words. We still have one more chapter to read, but this is a very short parasha. And that
Marilyn wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to know if you said awed, AWED.
Yes.
Thank you.
What else could it have been?
Odd, ODD.
Oh, yeah, that really changes it.
I don't use the word odd very often, but maybe I should start.
The idea of giving, because the name of the parasha is Terumah. Terumah in Hebrew, the simplest of the words is a donation. Okay? And there comes this interesting concept of who actually benefits the most from donating. Is it the giver or the receiver?
Well, the word itself is actually a double entendre, which is very interesting. There are not many words in our language that are a double entendre, and the whole concept of giving or a gift is a double entendre.
Can you elaborate?
Well, it's the gift is it's something you receive as well as give to someone else. It's both things at once. Maybe that's not a double entendre. Maybe I'm using the word wrong.
Yeah, double entendre it usually is having a double meaning,
And it does.
right?
It has a double meaning.
But to me, double entendre, correct me if I'm wrong, implies that the double meaning are opposite. They have a contradiction.
Well, that you receive and you receive and you I don't know how to I have to use a different word than give.
Yeah.
But
No, but this concept in Judaism is a very important one. You know, there's I think Maimonides is the what I'm thinking of is the different levels of giving. And so his is like the classic, but there's also a simpler one that says that giving of your time to teach someone something is a much higher level of giving. Like somebody needs something immediately, you give them. If they are cold, clothe the naked. If they're hungry, share your bread. Right? And that's from the Haftarah that we read on Yom Kippur, which says, "This is not what I've asked you. I've not asked you to just fast and look up heavenward to me. What I've asked you is to actually do the work. If you see someone hungry, clothe them.
yes, do the work.
Do the work, right? You see someone hungry, don't go to the store and buy expired stuff to donate. Give your own bread, slice your own bread for them. Ufarasta lachmecha." Right? So it's an opportunity to do something is a gift. An opportunity to do something for someone else is a gift. Along with that, there's a recognition that when somebody is needy, it's a time of vulnerability. And while you help them come out of that immediate need, your obligation goes far beyond that, is to give them their dignity back. And from there comes, we talked about this morning, the idea that one who received tzedakah also gives tzedakah. You give someone something and they in turn also donate something, maybe of the sum of money that you give or from the slice of bread you gave them, that there's more to it. And the whole idea of giving is a way of restoring dignity. And that's another reason it's considered to be out of place, that this whole building thing comes before we actually read the story of the golden calf, because it appears to be an opportunity to restore the dignity after the incident of the golden calf. And that's the end of my notes that I have for today. So,
is it possibly too that it starts out by saying giving objects, the gold and silver and the materials and things like that, but is it also saying that's not enough? You also have to give of your time, give of yourself in order to produce this. It's clear it's not going to be just a small, a group of workers who are going to put this massive structure together. It's got to be drawing, as we'll find out later, it's going to be drawing from all of the specialties and skills that people have in the community. And that's part of what's going on here, is people learning how to participate in a community and be supportive of one another. So is it coming under that heading of donations? It's not enough just to donate material, something of material value. It's donating yourself and your time.
yeah.
That's important to the community.
And I'm going to use the term modern Judaism because I don't want to use the term Reform Judaism or anything, but modern Judaism with the emphasis on tikkun olam, repair of the world, really leans into that it is not a person who can repair the world, that the only way you repair the world is working together. Collectively, exactly. So that when we are sitting here watching news from somewhere else and we say, what can we do? What can we do? There is a lot we can do, because the concept that we look at each other across the screen or face to face and see see what others may be going through. The concept of empathy, there was such a big, wild thing about when I forget which politician said something about empathy, schmempathy. We don't get anywhere with empathy, right? It doesn't bring us anywhere. It doesn't get us anything. It doesn't. Empathy is old.
Which one of our brilliant
It doesn't matter.
kind of does.
And it doesn't matter.
It's mainly taken on by the Christian nationalists. They're anti-empathy.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And if you want, I will share with you it was one of Rabbi Fink's drashot during High Holidays.
By the way, Rabbi Fink is coming back this year.
Nice.
Right.
It's so interesting because empathy seems to be one of the most, human / godlike qualities that we have. The ability to put yourself in somebody else's place and, share their burden or their blessing. How can you say empathy, Schmidt? That's crazy.
Right. Sarah? Oh.
There was just a guy that I think he was supposed to be on Stephen Colbert. I think his father's a preacher. I forget his name now, but he's a Christian. And
Tallarico. James Tallarico.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
James Tallarico. He's running for Senate in Texas.
Exactly. And his father's a preacher, and I was listening to him. I got interested because evidently he couldn't be on Stephen Colbert, but he was on the YouTube version of Stephen Colbert. And he was saying that very thing, that Christian nationalism has nothing to do with Jesus or his example or being Christian in any way, shape, or form. So it was really, and for that reason, he wasn't able to be on Stephen Colbert, and it had something to do with
it's
Sarah, the guy who has ABC.
Sarah, the thing about
wait a minute, the guy who whatever channel Stephen Colbert is on, they want to buy another, like Disney. I don't know which one, but
can we talk about this in the time when we go off of Facebook? I think it's an important conversation, but we've tried to keep politics out of Torah study. So
I
put
think
it to the end.
Everybody knows about it. It's been on the news and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's right or he's wrong. People have to make up their minds about their own belief system and how they practice it. So I'm not getting into a judgment thing here. I'm just saying that there was politics behind it, and it's been all over TV. Anyway, all right.
David, actually, it's an important conversation. I'm staying on for it later, but I'm calling on David right now.
I think it's important, and I don't see why we can't bring some of this stuff up, because if we don't talk about it, it just gets swept under the rug again. And
I think we consider that there is a danger all the time of people attacking the group.
I know.
And I just don't want to go there.
I know.
Okay,
anyway,
let's hear David.
Well, hopefully I'm not straying too far into this territory, but Yehuda and I were sitting down talking the other day, and it seems like this concept of empathy seems to be the key thing, the key kind of emotional energy behind a lot of politics, and our lack of it, either having empathy or lack of having empathy, seems to be the dividing line these days. It's not so much not even so much principled stances on things, on ideologies or whatever. It's getting down to, are we concerned for our fellow people or not? That seems to be the issue that's dividing the politics these days.
The concept of empathy, it as somebody who goes through life with a kind of severe degree of physical challenge, if the only good thing that comes out, and it's a huge good thing that comes out of that, is that it creates empathy. It becomes a gift because it gives me the ability to see how, you know, the burdens of other people. And I think that without empathy, humankind isn't human. It's a big deal.
Certainly allows you to get closer to people than any other single thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I think, the importance of the concept of the sentence. It's the most seminal sentence in this parasha to me. Build a structure so that I can dwell among you.
Mm-hmm.
Not, you know, what kind of a God that the Israelites are encouraged to listen to needs a physical space with gold and silver in it. Isn't that what we are actually leaving behind?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the concept is it's always among people. It's some of my most interesting conversations I actually have on my way to chorus, where I ride with two sisters, and David Jackson probably knows them. Kathy Ogata. Do you know Kathy from Kealakekua? Anyhow, she knows you.
Name's
But
familiar.
her and her sister ride with me, and they are, if you met them, they're two Midwestern women, I think from like Kansas or somewhere, and they are the most, two of the most, and they're close to 80, or on either one is 80, one is just before 80, and listening to their rhythm of their speech and seeing who they are, you know, and all their whiteness, and having grown up eating all the things that you eat in Midwest as church-going people, and but yet they are so cool in their thinking, and we have the best conversations, and I say Jewish conversations, when I drive them to chorus and back. They are so enlightened, and I have to say that it was Kathy Ogata who turned me on to a rabbi who is an expert on the New Testament, Rabbi Amy Jill Levine. And I'm really fascinated by this idea that, to me, it's obvious, it's always been obvious that what God demands of us is what we do among people.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's not that obvious to people who didn't grow up Jewish. They can learn to understand it, and it feels liberating to understand it, but it's not how they grew up. So it's really interesting to talking to people who are, you know, have experienced an entire life, very, very good church-going people who say, oh, that makes so much more sense. Like that, it feels like it lifts a burden, because you never know if your obligation is always just to God. You don't ever know what all it entails. But if your obligations are always to people, and you look them in the eye, and as Marilyn says, you who live with always back pain looks at someone, and if they're in pain, you know what they're feeling. Who better would know what they're feeling? And so it's always that, and there's no escaping it. There's no like, don't look somewhere else. It's not over there. It's over here. I love that. And I love when people like say, wow, based on our conversation, I went listening to this and like, this is much more intriguing than I thought it would be. So
I'm not the people that I know that are active Christians, they're very tuned in on that plane. I mean, I'm not saying that's everybody. This could be just this, you know, a certain group, but they're very tuned in on the horizontal plane of person to person.
it's and again, it's not for me to have this conversation because I really don't know much about it, but the overlying concept of why you do the things you do is, it's not unique
Mm-hmm.
to Jews,
Mm-mm.
but it is the overriding concept.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as we get to the end of Moses repeating the Mishneh Torah in the book of Deuteronomy, where does it end? You guys know my favorite parasha. Lo b'shamayim hi, in Nitzavim. Hello, no, it's not over there. Like, bring your face down and look at someone in the eye. It is not over the seas. It is not somewhere impossible. It is within you.
Right.
And you are here, not just is it within you to know, but it ends with, it's within you to do. It's not a uniquely Jewish concept, but in Judaism, there's no escape from it. You don't opt to say, well, I may have wronged people, but I can still have my relationship with God. The relationship with God is not
Dependent.
it's a circle. It will lead to the relationship between humans, but the relationship between humans always supersedes because it leads to, what does it lead to? The relationship with God.
Mhm.
We have one more short book, so we do the KBS tradition. Who wants to take us out with chapter 27? Yehuda, am I calling on you?
Sure.
Okay.
And you shall make the altar of acacia wood 5 cubits in length and 5 cubits in width. The altar should be square and 3 cubits its height. I can't see. And you shall make its horns on its 4 corners. From the same piece its horns shall be, and you shall overlay it with bronze. And you shall make its pails for its ashes, and its shovels, and its basins, and its flesh hooks, and its fire pans. All its vessels you shall make of bronze. And you shall make for it a meshwork grating of bronze, and you shall make on the mesh 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners. And you shall set it beneath the ledge of the altar from below, and the mesh shall come halfway up the altar. And you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. And its poles shall be brought through the rings, and the poles shall be on the 2 sides of the altar when it is carried. Hollow bordered you shall make it, as he showed you on the mountain, thus they shall do. And you shall make the tabernacle court on the southern side, and there shall be hangings for the court of twisted linen, 100 cubits in length for one side, and its posts shall be 20, and their sockets 20 of bronze, and the hooks for the posts and their bands shall be of silver. And thus for the northern side in length the hangings shall be 100 cubits, and its posts 20, and their sockets 20 of bronze, and the hooks for the posts of silver. And thus for the northern side in length the hangings shall be 100 cubits, and its posts 20, and their sockets 20 of bronze, and the hooks for the posts of silver. And the width of the court on the western side 50 cubits of hangings. Their posts shall be 10, and their sockets 10, and the width of their court on the side to the very east 50 cubits, and 15 cubits of hangings for the flank, their posts 3, and their sockets 3. And for the other flank 15 cubits of hangings, their posts 3, and their sockets 3. And for the gate of the court a screen of 20 cubits, indigo and purple and crimson, and twisted linen, embroiderer's work, their posts 4, and their sockets 4. All the posts around the court shall be banded in silver, their hooks silver, and their sockets bronze. The length of the court 100 cubits, and the width 50 throughout, and the height 5 cubits, twisted linen, and their sockets bronze. So for all the vessels of the tabernacle in all its service, and all its pegs, and all the pegs of the court shall be bronze. And as for you, you shall command the Israelites that they take you clear oil of beaten olives for the light, to kindle a lamp perpetually. In the tent of meeting outside the curtain which is over the ark of the covenant, Aaron with his sons shall lay it out from evening to morning before the Lord, an everlasting statute of your generations incumbent on the Israelites. And that's why you can tell that this was a P writing, because nobody else in the world understands one bit of what this is except those guys who are the P's.
Okay, so if you just think, I know there was a lot of detail here, but if we really think that modern day synagogues are somehow meant to mimic, because we got the Aron, we've got all the things, but if you really think about what this means, the layout is the center of attention was in the middle, and the congregation would have been surrounding. And now we have the idea of a bima being like a stage where the clergy stands in the front and the congregation watches them. And it becomes less of an everybody involved kind of thing, but rather leaders and followers.
Less interactive.
Exactly.
That's interesting, because the design that I recall from Orthodox shuls was the place the bima to read the Torah from was in the middle rather than up by the ark.
Right.
Yes, theater in the round.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. And the criticism of Reform Judaism, as it was in Europe in the days when it started, was that it tried too hard to mimic churches, to make Jews feel less distinct and less not like the others around them. But yeah, look what it feels like. It went from there to all the way to my favorite example, which is hiring non-Jewish professional operatic singers to do Kol Nidre. Because what's more important, is it the words or the fact that you are there to be, do you need an outside force to bring the beauty that's already there by bringing someone who spends their life learning how to be an excellent singer, and then you bring that from the outside into the sanctuary? There's a justification for that. Well, you want it to be the most beautiful experience, so you go with what's the most beautiful. Again, we look to our community because in our community, all of it exists. And the concept of what is the most beautiful is totally subjective. What's beautiful to one person is not necessarily what's beautiful to another person. I know that not everybody loves an operatic voice, but yet in the culture of the time where that became a little bit of a norm, it's not a norm everywhere, the concept was that whatever the world considers beautiful, we will incorporate also, and therefore become more citizens of the world.
It really bothers me when they cast a non-Jewish person to play the role of the Jewish mother or whatever. Drives me nuts. Like, there's not a Jewish actress that can do that. It's just nuts, and uncalled for. There's no reason for it.
Meryl Streep can do anything. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I love Meryl Streep, nevertheless. The concept.
Notwithstanding.
Or Charlton Heston as Moses.
Well, actually, so Marilyn, that is a very interesting concept, because we all laugh and we kind of agree, but there's been a lot of criticism of re-envisioning historical stories in modern ways. And need to look no farther than Hamilton, the modern musical, because it is not a coincidence that the characters that we would never think of possibly being black in the context are playing who we presume to be white, right? And there are people who can't go with it.
Yeah,
right?
that doesn't bother me at all. If it's different in my
right,
mind.
But I'm saying I'm not giving it a value one way or the other, but I'm saying that was a big controversy.
Yeah, I remember
with the casting of that. But it's more than just finding the best voice for the part. There was real intention. The concepts that our country are built on are universal concepts. They should be.
Yeah.
The
And
limitation
Hamilton probably was part black. Hamilton
that
probably
too. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think he's trying to bring that into the story. I don't think it's an innocent, I think a lot of thought went into it. But I think that if we truly believe that the idealism that made our country, was still limited by the imagination of the people living in their time. There's nothing wrong with it. They could only do what they could do in their time. But it is then up to us, just like when we study Torah, to bring
Mm,
it to our time.
yeah. So I looked up the idea of going having horizontal relationships rather than just the one that we have with God, and how we act. We in fact create a godly world by having proper relationships horizontally. And this thing says that the concept here, they're talking about the same thing, primarily based on a scripture, I guess in Matthew, where Jesus teaches that reconciliation with others takes precedence over ritual worship, and instructs that if you're offering a gift at the altar and remember a brother has something against you, you must first reconcile with them before offering your gift to God.
An absolute tenet of Jewish thinking.
Right. So I'm just saying it's exactly the same. It's not different. It's exactly the same. It's just our idea that they're doing something different.
I think that I'm no expert, like I said, I've been listening to this one rabbi who is an expert on New Testament because I do value understanding things that I don't understand, right, as a concept. But there, Jesus was Jewish.
I was a rabbi. Yeah.
Exactly. So that none of this should surprise you. It's
No, it
usually the
doesn't.
institutions of religion that recognize that human need for deeper understandings can be manipulated. So
Yeah.
I separate the idea of a religion from the institutions of religion. I always do very carefully do that. Arnie?
Well, Jesus also incorporated Buddhism with his Judaism. He, you know, evidenced by the fact that, the trade route from Asia for silk to Rome and other Mediterranean ports went right through Israel. And I think I mentioned this before, how that symbol, the Hamza, is a Buddhist symbol originally, but was incorporated in Jewish and Muslim culture around that time.
And what is that?
The Hamza,
Yeah,
that hand symbol?
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
it's originally a Buddhist symbol, and then, it was incorporated into the culture of the Muslim world and the Jewish world. All three cultures use that same symbol. I guess it's the hand of God or openness or whatever you want to interpret it at. But, Jesus is saying, love thy neighbor, um, turn your face. All those things were said by Gautama Buddha 600 years earlier, so.
universal truths.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, as part of the Interfaith Alliance, the speakers on the first day, there was a presenter who actually presented that whole timeline of, Jesus possibly interacting with Buddha while in exile or in the years of India. This stuff I didn't know about. It's very interesting, but I think the overlying concept that humans are responsible for humanity. The many steps removed, that to believe in a God that causes bad things to happen to humans for some sort of lesson is that came a lot later. The concept of humans being responsible for each other, one of the earliest sayings, it goes all the way back to Cain and Abel, way back in the beginning of Genesis. Hashomer achi anochi, am I my brother's keeper? A resounding yes, and it's never gone away.
Mm-hmm.
Never gone away. And, a lot of things can obscure these basic concepts, but as we begin to build them, and that's why I appreciate being able to look at these parashot right now that have seemed kind of chewy and like, why do we care about all these building materials and linens and stuff?
It's also older than that story of Cain and Abel because there was a Sumerian story with the same storyline and characters, the shepherd and the farmer, the controversy, one brother killing the other. The guy's name was Denali or something like that. And I can't remember their names. But at any rate, same story, but it came out of Samaria 1,000 years earlier. They found it on cuneiform tablets.
Right, so I really don't think that there's a uniqueness to these general overriding universal concepts in Judaism. The difference is that we have a written record of the discussions over them and how they cannot be forgotten when the situation changes, right? So we find ourselves today, and we weren't there for the thousands of years of discussion, but yet we have a record of them, so that they show us that there's not a static moment by which you believe one concept and you got it for all time. You still are responsible for it. You're never like absolved from the responsibility for it. I think Craig's hand was up before Yehuda. Am I right? Craig and then Yehuda.
Yes. Um, Perhaps just going back to the subject of cultural appropriation and non-Jews playing Jews, think of all the Jewish actors who have won big awards for portraying Gentiles. So I get, and just my research indicates some actors who I did not realize were Jewish, that Paul Muni playing Louis Pasteur. I didn't realize Daniel Day-Lewis was Jewish. Did you know that?
No.
And he played Abraham Lincoln, of course, and Sean Penn played a guy, an Irish Catholic named Jimmy Markham in Mystic River. Then Michael Douglas playing Gordon Gekko. Thank God he wasn't a Jew. It's bad enough. And Dustin Hoffman playing Gentile Ted Kramer in Kramer versus Kramer, although that's a bit of a Jewish name, or his role in Rain Man, Richard Dreyfuss in The Goodbye Girl, just a lot of them. Or even Joel Grey playing the MC in Berlin who wasn't Jewish.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's only 0.2% of the world's population. So I'm just saying it's, there's not that many.
Right.
But I definitely agree with.
So acknowledgement of the craft. To build a proper tabernacle for God to dwell among people takes all the talents. Actors are not born knowing how to do it. It is something they actually study. They study history, hopefully. They study music to know how to change their accents. Like, it's a real study, and you honor that when somebody puts effort into becoming very good at what they are, that's what you're honoring. So why wouldn't anybody play anybody else? Like, does an actor even have to believe in the person they're portraying? Surely not, right? So it's about honoring the individual and the effort that they put into it.
Yes, Helen Mirren did a fabulous job playing Golda.
She did. I agree.
Right. But can I say that in New York, Trish and I saw a version of Fiddler on the Roof. It's Harvey Fierstein as Tevye. Of course, he's Jewish, but Golda was played by Rosie O'Donnell. So that was interesting. And I'm not sure it worked out that well. Yeah.
Because Tova, what's her name, played her also on Broadway. And I can't think of her last name. But that
Felchu.
Yes, she was amazing.
His hand up.
I want to add to this amazing word empathy we spent so much time caring about is the word care as number 2, which is something we care about. And all this detail we're talking about is a function of caring. You can't actually do things. You can't be an artist and spend all the time creating beautiful works of art unless you care deeply. So I want to propose that care be after empathy is a very, very important thing.
I always was taught that you're supposed to balance empathy and ego in order to be successful in life. I think I learned that actually in real estate school, but it really makes sense when you think about it, how to be successful. You got to have that drive. You got to have that motivation, but you've got to empathize and make sure you're on the right path all the time and being fair and honest.
I had a question about one of the lines that in the section that Yehuda read, in line 8. It makes me wonder who is supposed to be speaking. Where it describes, hollow boarded you shall make it, as he, capitalized, he showed you on the mountain, thus they shall do.
Mm-hmm.
And my impression of the Parsha from the beginning was that these are instructions that God is giving to Moses. But now we have a third person
Okay, so
reference.
in the Hertz, which I go to when I want an answer to such a question, it says, so line 8, did you say?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, hollow with planks. The altar consisted of wooden planks covered with metal so that the inside was hollow. Rashi explains that the command an altar of earth thou shalt make unto me signifies that a mound of earth equal to the dimensions of the hollow of the altar was heaped up and the casing of the altar set over it.
That's not what he's referring to.
I
Read
know.
line 8.
I'm reading the commentary on line 8, so that did not
Right.
satisfy that. Okay, so now let me look at my other.
This translation in Gunther's is the word you, which is a general plural for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
כאשר הראה אותך, yeah, showed you. Okay, let me see what my commentary says. Make it hollow. No, it doesn't address. My commentary does not address that. What do you have in the Plout commentary there?
That's what I just told you.
Can you say it again? I was reading. I'm sorry.
It's her'e otcha. In the translation here, as you were shown on the mountain, you being a term that can be
Universal.
used as
Mm-hmm.
a plural for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Not very satisfying, Alan.
I guess it just I think I've always complained that the Torah needs an editor to fix some of these things.
Which is why I like two commentaries, because the Hertz is very traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking for traditional Jewish sources, that's where you look. And the women's commentary is really interesting because it really doesn't have a lot of commentary besides where there's interpretation of where females fit into the writing. So like line 8, they don't even have much written on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Arnie?
I'm sure you all have played the game telephone, where you pass the word around to the group. Well, the Torah was an oral tradition until it was finally written down. So just think of how many generations it was passed down orally and how some of the words could have gotten a little messed up, or changed and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we went through that whole rabbinic period where they wrote all the commentaries and codified everything. And once again, they had to reach a consensus. And I'm sure things were changed many times during that period.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more source upstairs, but I'm too lazy to. I'm already laden with too many books here. I'm not even seeing the ones I'm looking for. Let's see if Haley has anything enlightening to say about it. It's interesting. A lot of the commentary kind of skip this last chapter. They don't really have that much about it.
Mm.
I should tell you, in about 3 parshot, we're going to hit the end of the 6th year of us studying together.
Huh.
I actually
At
went
the very
looking.
end, I think we started at the beginning of the next book. I just looked up the part from March 13th when shutdown happened, And that was the very end of Exodus.
We didn't start the Torah study that week. I think it took us a couple of weeks to gear up.
Whatever,
to
it's just, it was in Leviticus, basically the weeds. We started studying in the weeds, not in the common stories.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe we should have a party to celebrate
I was just going
the
to say,
anniversary.
somebody's got a bottle of Schlivovitz. I think it's Barry.
We could call it Simcha Torah.
Hey, yeah, good idea.
You know, it's interesting because the concept of what the responsibility of having the Holocaust surviving Torah, a subject came up because there are actual guidelines for congregations like ours that are gifted a Torah to watch over. And it was really interesting reading about it. Barry and I had a conversation about it because are we actually doing everything that we're expected to do with this Torah? And it's different. In our community, we actually take the Torah out every time we meet for Shabbat and use it, whereas some congregations are given Torah that can't be used. They're not, they're too fragile, and they're kept in a case, and they're admired. But we actually take out and read from. And
Yeah, Temple Emmanuel in Honolulu does not use theirs. I
Right,
think
and
it's
they-
in a glass case.
That's the Kalakaua one, right?
Also, the Kalakaua
Yeah.
one's on the left-hand side, and I think the Holocaust Torah is on the right.
Right, the Holocaust from the memorial, the Holocaust memorial scroll is separate. The Kalakaua is not that one.
No,
No,
Kalakaua is
I
not
know.
actually an accurate Torah, if I remember right.
But it's, you know, again, the doing.
So what are we not doing?
We're not doing anything, but the fact that who would you have predicted that once life got onto some sort of track where everybody's getting back to their busy lives, I didn't think that we would stay and continue this Torah study.
Oh, really?
I mean, I knew that for me, I would continue because it's how I do Shabbat. It's like, okay, world, you can recede. I've got some interesting stuff to figure out. I get to sit and try to figure this out again. It's so much more fun to do with other people. But I didn't. Did anyone here predict? I mean, who are the old timers here?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, in fact,
I remember.
I would
Go
go in
ahead.
person if it was possible.
Sarah, go ahead.
I wasn't there at the very, very beginning, but I was there pretty early on during COVID. And I remember you saying, oh, this isn't going to last forever, you know. I remember you saying that, Aviva.
Did I? Well,
Yeah,
maybe
because I think, in the middle of COVID, it was sort of like this was something that we could do during COVID, and possibly when COVID was over, it wouldn't be happening anymore. People wouldn't be going online like they were during COVID. I think was your thinking. That's kind of what the gist of it that I remember. But it did.
By
it did
sticking
survive.
through it for so long, we've actually come to the point of why you actually study Torah. Because the words continue to be the same from year to year, and all the changes around us continue also. And it has been the single thing that has grown Kona Beth Shalom the most. We have new members out of it, and many of them are not even living in Kona who attend, via Zoom. And it's a fascinating thing, the changes that have happened through it. But I look forward to this conversation every single week.
Yeah,
I mean,
me
that's
too.
why when we go to Israel, we're probably going to join Torah study at 1 a.m.
Oh, no, this time of year, it's from 10 p.m. We won't be
Oh.
as
Well.
bleary-eyed.
Perfect. At Como Mai.